And I'm like, yeah, no problem. So to the story is that when you do this kind of coaching, the horse is at liberty, which means you're not riding the horse, you're not holding on to the horse. It's totally free and can do whatever it wants, right?
Yes.
So I went over to this horse and I'm like, okay, let's do this. And the horse refused. He just stood there and like, what are you doing? You're not feeling any feelings whatsoever. You're just a closed book. Like, I'm not going to work with you. And that brought me, eventually I got super frustrated. It brought me to tears. I kind of like broke down. Um, and that was hard. It was difficult and it was hard, but it was also, that's what needed to happen for me to actually realize that I need to work on myself and also what I needed to work on. So I think that was the key to why I love this job so much.
Alrighty, it is time to stop hitting snooze and awaken to a life worth being, the fun and inspiring podcast that dives deep into what makes life truly fulfilling. I'm your host, Sue Willoughby, a self-proclaimed badass transformational life coach for women over 40. Join me as I explore the extraordinary journeys of ordinary people who've transformed their lives from the inside out. Tune in weekly to uncover the secrets to smashing through your perceived limits and creating a life that's not just well lived, but totally worth being. Hello, and welcome to another episode of A Life Worth Being. I am very excited. I know I say this all the time, but but I really mean it. Have you ever met someone and you just kind of know, you feel it in your heart that you are going to be friends, and I mean fast friends? And that is my next guest. I met her in my Equus coaching master facilitator program, and we just automatically knew that we were going to end up working together someday, and we are, and that is fantastic. My guest today is Frida Karsberg. She is a certified Equus coach. She is a master facilitator. She's also a Reiki master and healer, and she does a whole bunch of other really cool things. She's originally from Sweden. She was a television producer there and has been in the U.S., hailing from Los Angeles, California. Welcome, Frida Karsberg.
Thank you so much, Sue. That was the longest and the best explanation of who I am and what I do. So thank you so much.
So that leaves nothing else for you to add to that, right?
No, it's done. I can go home.
Perfect. All right. Frida, I did say that you used to be a television producer. You're now living in LA. Your life was in Sweden. How long ago did you come to the States? Tell us a little bit about you and your journey.
Okay, I'll try to do so. So I moved here 10 years ago. I came with my husband and he got a job offer here in LA. He's also in the TV industry. And we said, like, let's do 2 years. That will be fun. And then we're going to go back home and return to our normal lives again. So we moved. And then here I am 10 years later, 2 kids, a different career, like everything is just, has changed over the years. So that's the very short story of it all.
I want more.
Okay.
I mean, that's a big change. You're moving to, and of all places, LA. That's a very different, you were originally from Stockholm, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
That is the capital of Sweden, but even though it's the capital, it's a tiny, tiny, tiny city compared to Los Angeles. So I thought I knew how it was to live in a big city, but I had no idea.
So I'd love to know a little bit more, like what were some of your challenges and what got you to Equus coaching? I mean, that's further down the path, but I really want to now dig in a little bit to, like you said, it was a big city. It was a very different city. It's a big US city with, what all of its challenges. What were some of your challenges that you faced?
Great question. There was a lot, but for starters, the language. I thought I knew how to speak English. We learn English starting like 10, 11 years old in Sweden because it's a small country. But, you know, just every day-to-day conversations were difficult to have in the beginning. I didn't know how to go to the bank. I know this sounds ridiculous, like how to drive, you know, all the rules. Uh, you know, I didn't even know where to shop my groceries. It was like a completely new way of living. So in the beginning, I was just overwhelmed and like, this is not going to work out. I don't have any friends. I don't have any family. My husband was like super happy working and like, this is the best life ever. And I'm like, no. So it was really difficult because also like a lot of people dream about moving to the United States and especially Los Angeles with, you know, everything it has to offer. But for me, that was like the total opposite actually. So it was a rough start for sure.
Yeah. Well, now you're 10 years in. You said you came here without the kids because you did not have children when you first moved here.
Okay.
So now you have two children, and that's a big change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I moved to a different country and I decided to have, or we decided to have our first child a year after, which was also I don't know what I was thinking, but you know, I'm super happy that my daughter Maiken is here, but it was just like it was a lot. And also what happened when we moved here, I told my husband, can you find me a barn, like a where I can do horseback riding and a gym? Like that's all I'm asking for right now to stay sane. And I found a really great place in Topanga where I did a lot of horseback riding. And that's where kind of like the seed was planted about wanting to do something with horses, healing, and humans in the future. Because even though I didn't have any humans friends, I did have a lot of horsey friends that I could, you know, spend time with and cry. And they were just like, okay, it's okay, you're going to be fine. So that was kind of like the start of the whole new career, I think.
So did you it sounds like you have a past with horses. So when you were in Sweden, did you ride, and did you have a lot of horse friends there as well?
Yes. Well, my best friend when I was 6 years old, she wanted to start horseback riding, and so I kind of like, okay, let's do it. And I was so scared of horses. I was terrified. So, you know, we were taking lessons every week, and I was just crying and getting off the horse and like, I can't do this. So that was like that was the start with horses. But then, so then I, of course, stopped horseback riding. Then, moving on till my late teens, I decided to start doing it again with a friend, and then it was totally different. I guess I just had to, you know, become older to be able to be close to horses in a different way. So yes, I have been around horses since very young. I was terrified at first, then I learned how to manage that fear and actually understand how powerful horses are.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a little bit. Now, I know that, you went through a huge transition, and I know that you incorporate your transitional lessons into your coaching practice. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. And ask me questions if you don't understand what I'm trying to explain here. But when I started doing the Equus coaching that both you and I have gone through that certification, I didn't really know what life coaching was. I just want to say that first. So when I went, because it was all like, okay, I want to do something with horses and healing, and I know they're so great for humans, but where can I learn how to do this, right? And then I just met this woman and she's like, okay, this is so cool. You have to um, apply to this place, blah, blah, blah. And I did without even knowing what I was signing up for. And one of the
I love
facilitators,
that.
yeah, I know. Yeah. But, you know, good stuff happens sometimes when you
Yeah.
just get in
Take
there,
that
right?
leap. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. And then I was emailing with one of the instructors and she's like, okay, there's one spot left for the fall class. Are you going to join us or not? I'm like, yeah, you know, yeah, let's do it. This is my new life. Anyway, so I did join it, and then we had our first on-site workshop where I got to meet all the other participants, and it was great. Everyone was so nice. But coming from Sweden, not loving talking about myself and my emotions, it was kind of like backfired because we were sitting in a circle and everyone was sharing how they felt about stuff, and I'm like, I have to get out of here. Uh, but something came to me, and I'm like, I need to stay here. It's, this could actually mean something for me in the future. So I decided to stay. I had the best weekend of my life. It was life-changing. And then I just decided this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So,
Nice.
mhm.
Yeah, it sounds like so. What really, about that situation? So, for those of you who don't know what Equus coaching is, basically, Frida and I are life coaches. I'm a transitional life coach, so I work with women over 40 who are trying to make those kinds of difficult transitions and get out of their comfort zone and get on to that next phase of their life, whatever that is. And sometimes it's just a discovery process, right? And we use horses when we do one-on-one coaching, and the horses provide a feedback loop for us. And someone will be in an arena or in a round pen working with a horse, and the horse is at liberty to move about freely. And we are watching what the horse is doing and what the human is doing, and it gives us really amazing opportunities to ask open-ended coaching questions and really get the person in their body, get grounded, because it's very somatic experience, right? Because horses are very much in their bodies and in the moment every second of every day because they're prey animals. Right? So that's a little bit about what Equus coaching is. And I'm curious, when you said that, it sounds like when you were in that group, right? And everybody was sharing, which is something that I don't know if it's a cultural thing or it's just a personal thing that you were not accustomed to.
Yeah.
What was it that cracked you open?
Ooh. First of all, I think it's a mix of personal and cultural. Honestly, Americans are so open in a different way than the Swedes.
Sometimes.
Yeah, but it's hard to get that, understand that social codes all the time. But what cracked me open? Okay, so let me tell you this. As I told you, I've been around horses since young age, so I'm like, I know what to do with a horse. This is not a problem for me. And I went into the round pen with the horse, and the instructor told me, okay, so what do you want to work on today? And we were having a conversation, and after that, she said, okay, why don't you go and interact with the horse? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. So to the story is that when you do this kind of coaching, the horse is at liberty, which means you're not riding the horse, you're not holding on to the horse. It's totally free and can do whatever it wants, right?
Yes.
So I went over to this horse and I'm like, okay, let's do this. And the horse refused. He just stood there and like, what are you doing? You're not feeling any feelings whatsoever. You're just a closed book. Like, I'm not going to work with you. And that brought me, eventually I got super frustrated. It brought me to tears. I kind of like broke down.
Mhm.
Um, and that was hard. It was difficult and it was hard, but it was also, that's what needed to happen for me to actually realize that I need to work on myself and also what I needed to work on. So I think that was the key to why I love this job so much.
Yeah, that's great. And well, we both have also seen very similar things happen in our coaching practices and in our it's amazing. It really is where, the horse is just, it's going to give you exactly what you are giving it and what you think you are hiding from,
Hmm.
from everyone else. The horse is like, ain't gonna happen. Sorry. They will call you on your shit in a heartbeat.
I know. That's the cool thing about this. That's, why it's so powerful, because it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what you do. It's
Yeah.
just that second with the horse. Like that's all that matters.
And the other thing I think is amazing, and we've seen this as well, you can use the same horse
Hmm.
with different people, and the horse will act accordingly to whatever that particular person needs. It's not one size fits all. The horses intuitively know what threads to pull on. I mean, I've seen that. Have you as well,
Oh, yeah.
Frida?
Oh, yes. And I've experienced it as well. So, you can't lie to a horse.
Why do
You
you
can
think
lie
that
to me
is? What
all the time, but
you
the
can
horse,
lie to them, but they're just going to give it right back to you.
yeah, that's true. That is true. Anyway, yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah. So you you are an Equus coach and a master facilitator, and we can talk a little bit about our upcoming retreat, which I'm excited about as well. But look, I just want to talk a little bit more about how Reiki came into the picture in the healing aspect.
Yeah, sure.
Tell
I
us a little bit about Reiki for I'm second level, I'm not a master, but tell us a little bit more about Reiki and what it is.
Okay. So to me, Reiki is just the natural flow, the energy flow coming down from the universe. I believe that we're all made up of some kind of energy, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and sometimes as a human, we get tired and the energy is low. And then it's really great to go to a Reiki practitioner that can help you just like recharge and renew your energy flow. So whenever I'm doing Reiki healing on one of my clients, I act as I call myself like a vessel. I open up to the universal energy, and it goes through down through my head and out through my hands, and that's how I send the Reiki onto my clients. So it's nothing like they get my energy or vice versa. It's just like a really like a flow of pure light from the universe. Does
Awesome.
that
Yeah, I
make any
like it's
sense?
like you're like a conduit. Yeah. No,
Yes.
seriously, you're like a conduit. It just flows
Yeah.
through you. It doesn't and yes, as a Reiki practitioner, I know that and I also use Reiki in my equine bodywork practice as well. And you do have to have some sort of protection so that you don't then also take other people's energy with you, just since we're talking about energy here. Um, and what is the biggest thing that you notice as a Reiki practitioner? What is the biggest, like, not takeaway, but what is it about Reiki that, just tell me a little bit more about your feelings about Reiki and why you were drawn to it as well.
No one has ever asked me that question. Thank
There
you
you
for
have
asking
it.
the question. Yeah. Okay. So what the thing about Reiki is that it's very simple in
Mhm.
itself. It's for me, it's very pure, and there's like no shenanigans. It's just like, okay, this is what you get. I open up, the Reiki comes through, you get it, the clients receive it in any type of form. They will have an experience. And the only thing I'm hoping for is that they feel relaxed and recharged when they leave the session. So I like the idea of it's not being such a, somewhat not so much more, but still it's a small thing that will lead to good stuff further down the road. Because if someone feel rejuvenated and having more energy, hopefully they can do, good stuff in their life when they leave the session with me.
So what is, yes, and that's great. And I love that too. It is very simple. It's something that's already there. You don't have to turn it on, turn it off. There's no big explanations. It just is what it is.
Yes.
And what is, do you think, I mean, without, obviously I don't want to know any client history or anything like that, but what are some of the biggest breakthroughs or some of the things that you've noticed or that your clients have told you have come out of a Reiki session? If you could share some of those things.
Oh. Hmm. Yes. Well, so as I've been practicing Reiki more and more, things are coming up or happening during the sessions, which I've never asked for, but
Things
there's
like what? I'm going to get it out. Good. Tell me. Things like what?
no, but okay. Um, why I'm laughing is because this is, a couple of years back, this was like, what is this? But here I am doing it. And I also believe in it because it's happening to me. So what happens during a session sometimes is that spirits come and visit. and that's nothing that I can control. It's not that I'm like, hey, calling in my spirit guides. It's just that if I'm doing a session with a client that's going through something or that we're working on something in particular, there might be like a spirit, as I call it. You can call whatever you want, but a thing that comes
And,
and pay a visit.
uh-huh.
And what usually happens is that that thing gives me a symbol or a name or a letter, just anything
Mhm.
randomly, that I share with my client after the session. And the cool thing is that usually it makes sense to the client and can
Mm.
also help them with their healing. So I think that's pretty awesome. And I'm super open to what is happening with the Reiki and with, yeah, the universe telling us stuff.
I love that. I had Renee Spears on a few weeks ago, and she was talking about intuition and
Mhm.
how when those things come into play, like you get a signal or a symbol or something else in our lives, we discount those things. We
Mhm.
say, oh, that's just something stupid. Because I saw you kind of laughing as you're describing it because it is something that people will poo-poo and
Totally.
say, "Oh, that's not real. I'm not," they just totally discount it. So I think it's really interesting that you started to become aware of these things happening in these awarenesses, these whatever you want to call it, symbols, messages that you were getting from somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
During a Reiki session that and knowing to trust yourself enough to convey that to your clients.
Yeah,
That
that's it.
must have taken a little bit of I will say chutzpah on your
What does
taking
that mean?
a little bit of confidence in yourself and in what you're receiving. Sorry, chutzpah is probably not a word that comes up in Swedish very often. Um, but when you first started getting these messages during a Reiki session, what was your first reaction?
I'm like, no, but of course I was like, what's going on? Why can't I, pay attention to the client? Why am I like daydreaming about weird stuff? Stop it,
Mhm.
So I was, of
Pushing
course,
it
trying
down.
to get it, yeah, make it go away. But then I'm like, hey, it probably means something because it keeps on coming back, right?
Mm,
So then I told myself, like, if something comes up 3 times in a row,
mhm,
I'm gonna tell my client. And also know that before I do a session with a client, I always ask them if something comes up, do you want me to share it? Because if they don't, I would never do that,
mhm.
But usually people are curious and want to know. And I've had this random weird stuff, like an image of an apple or an image of a sweat, all this random stuff that doesn't make any sense in my head. But I'm like, okay, if I see it 3 times, I'm going to tell it. And I'm not going to try to translate it or interpret, how do you say that? Interpret.
Interpret.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But whatever it means, I'm just going to say it as it is, and that's that. And it's working. So I'm going to stick to my intuition. I'm super happy that is happening.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, I think intuition, most people just push it aside. And I think if we can figure out a way to, like you said, you've got your method, like if it shows up 3 times,
Mhm.
it's got to be worth talking about, even if it's an image of an apple, that may really mean something to the client. And do you also use that in your own personal life? Do you get those kind of hits, intuitive hits
Yeah,
yourself?
I do,
I'm
but
just being nosy.
it's okay. You can be as nosy as you want. Um, I do, but I don't always listen to them.
Aha,
I know,
interesting. Yeah,
blind spot. No, but
blind
I
spot, good.
think
Yeah.
like when I go into my professional self, I always trust my intuition. I do that with the horses too. It's like, it's ingrained in my body since years back. But I think it takes a lot of courage and to trust your intuition in your personal life. I wish I did it. I do it more. I practice to do it every day, but sometimes it's just like, ugh, no.
Mm.
And then, I know I should have trust my intuition because it's usually always right. So
So on that note, Is there something that you can share with people to encourage them to build? And like I said, I did talk about this with Renee, but is there something that you can recommend to people to test it out, right? To get in touch with your intuition a little bit more. Like when you talk to your clients, do you share that with them and then see if they, I don't know. How do you recommend people start to trust their intuition more?
Well, that's a good question. Well, I guess like every session that I do is in based on intuition, and that's what I tell my clients in the beginning. It's like, of course, I do my pre-work before I see someone, but it's not that I have everything planned, like we're gonna do this and then we're gonna do that and that's gonna happen and blah blah blah. I tried to do so, and that really backfired. So I'm just trying to talk to the client before and during a session that why don't we just stay open to whatever comes up, and that's how we can practice to use our intuition. And also with the coaching, what's most important to me is that my clients try to listen to their bodies.
Mm.
That goes hand in hand with intuition, right? Gut feeling, you get butterflies in your tummy, anything that comes up that's related to your intuition, right? It's your body's like, knock knock, hello,
Yeah.
listen to me for a second. So yeah, I think all the sessions are an example on how the clients can use their intuition more.
Good. Good. Yeah, I'm glad that you brought the body into it because, like I said, the Equus coaching that we do is very somatic in nature, where we really try and pull people, back into their bodies. And I think that for me anyway, building that awareness of what the physical triggers are, what the physical aspects are when you're encountering something or when you're trying to do something new, your body's going to tell you. I mean, even if you go to eat something that your body knows it shouldn't have, you're going to get a reaction before you even eat it. But is that going to stop you from having the whole pizza? No, not necessarily. But it will after enough time
Yeah.
where you're like, okay, that pizza made me feel really crappy. I'm not going to do that again. Or you do it again and you're like, okay, that, but I love the whole body aspect of it because it all kind of comes around, right? The Reiki, the horses, the intuition, it all goes back to us and what's inside of us because our bodies store everything that has ever happened to us.
Yeah. And I think, in my opinion, I think anyone can do this kind of work if they decide to open up and, stay open and, um, yeah, because I was very closed a couple of years back, and I would never have been able to do this kind of work. But now, when I've been having time to think about it, I know that growing up, I had a lot of these things happening to me, but I decided to just put it aside because it didn't
Mhm.
feel real.
It didn't feel really pack it away and
Ah, like,
yeah.
let's put that in a box and maybe
Yeah.
I'll bring it out some other time.
Yeah. Well, I think when we're around, and I've seen this with my clients as well, that and it sounds like you had a very similar experience that the horses don't lie and they don't let you hide things. You will crack open, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but I mean things will come up when you're in the presence of an animal like a horse that is so intuitive and has, ancestral wisdom and knowledge that go way beyond anything that we can even comprehend.
Mm.
And I think that working within the space and having the horse hold the space creates a safe container for those things to come up and to deal with them in a way that um, may be intense, but also feels supportive. And that's kind of what I've noticed as well.
Yeah, yeah. I couldn't agree more. You're so good at explaining the stuff. I'm like, yes, yes, yes.
Oh, Frida, you're so funny. You're always like, oh, my English is, you speak better English than I do. But I do understand, and something that I know that you've brought into your coaching practice or one of your programs is called Lost in Translation.
Oh yeah, for sure. I always feel lost in translation. I got a text the other day from a friend of mine, an American friend, and she said, "You know why I like you so much?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "Because you're so weird." And I'm like, "I guess I am, but I'm also like trying to understand stuff that I don't understand, and I keep on asking questions."
No,
But
I think that's healthy, right?
yeah,
Healthy. You've
but
got to
it
be
took me like
curious.
43 years to be honest about that I don't understand everything, and but yeah,
That's a
I
lot though,
yeah
right?
yeah
Nobody wants to admit that they don't know something. And so we just act like you know something, and then you get called on your shit and you're
I
like, you
know.
really don't know that. So it's better to just be honest and say, I don't understand.
Yeah,
And
well, it's
I know
funny.
that our language is weird, and we do have a lot of weird things that we say and do. So coming from another country and another culture, yeah, it's going to be different. Same thing if I went to Sweden, and I'm sure that I would not understand a lot of stuff that
No, probably
people in
not.
Sweden do.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get the opportunity to go. I did, I think I told you, I tried to learn Swedish a little bit, and it's a very difficult language. So,
Yeah.
uh, anyway, you're stuck speaking English to me for now. Maybe
Yeah.
someday it'll click and I'll be able to speak fluent Swedish.
Who knows? Who knows?
Maybe if I get hit in the head enough times.
Yeah.
All right. Rita, this has been a wonderful conversation. I just want to shift gears a little bit as we wrap up and talk about what I
Mhm.
started with,
Yeah.
about us working together. I remember like just the first couple of meetings into our master facilitator training,
Yeah.
we got together and we were talking about like how can we work together in the future? How can we work together in the future? And we have worked together in the future and in the past now. And we do have a very exciting retreat coming up in
Yes.
October.
Yes. So exciting. And can I just say, I remember when I liked you the first time.
Did I say something weird?
No, you didn't say anything. That was the beauty of it
Oh,
all. No, but you were the only one, except me, that wanted to stay longer at the workshop and take the horses back to the pasture. Do you remember?
yeah. We're like, let's just hang out with the horses. We'll
Yeah,
we'll
like
volunteer to do
that's
all
my
that.
that's my person.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, we have a super exciting workshop or retreat coming up in October.
Tell us about it, Frida.
Should I? Okay. Ugh. So it's October 18th through 20th. It's 3 days, and it's at a private ranch in Paso Robles, and it's called Autumn Renewal.
Yes.
Yes. And we've done it before, and we love the idea of bringing in whatever fall means to us. It's like change of leaves, change of season, change of yourself. You can do a deep dive into who you are and where you want to go next.
Yeah, that's awesome. I also love the fall renewal theme because, you're kind of getting out of that, laid back summer energy, or maybe it was really fast and exciting summer energy. You're starting to get back into your routines. If you have kids, they're going back to school. You're probably enjoying that freedom a little bit, Frida, maybe. Um, um, but then there's also the winter season coming, right? Where you kind of tend to hunker down. And then all the holidays fall into place, right? It's the holidays. You've got Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, and winter is a very different energy. So I come from New England, the Northeast, and I used to love the change of seasons, the rich colors, and just everything sort of transitioning. So I love that we're sort of making this an annual retreat. So I'm excited about it. Like Frida said, it's going to be in Paso Robles at the Nacimiento Ranch. It's a beautiful private ranch. The horses are amazing. The participants, it's like a community. It's this really intense connection with the other participants for 3 days.
Mhm.
And we're also including lodging in it. So I will put a link to If you want more information about the retreat, I highly recommend it. And I'm not just saying that. We've gotten great feedback in the past from our previous retreats. And it's an incredible experience. I'm not going to say any more about it because you just really have to experience it. Is there anything you'd like to add about that, Frida?
Of course it is. No, but what I wanted to say is also we're gonna, of course, focus on the human-horse interaction and connection, but we're also gonna bring in all the other good stuff that we've been talking about throughout this podcast about intuition and maybe some Reiki and some guidance and nature. There's so many things that we're gonna bring into this and make it like a beautiful experience for everyone who's coming.
Yeah, thank you, Frida. Well, I can't thank you enough for your time today. I really appreciate it. It's so much fun to talk to you. It's always fun when we get together, whether it's on Zoom or the phone calls or whatever. And you're in the LA area, and I know that you work with clients locally as well as online. So what is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
They can either follow me on Instagram and send me a DM there. It's Frida Karsberg Coach in one word, or they can go into my website. It's www.fridakarsberg.com.
Okay. And I will put that in the show notes as well.
Yes. Thank you.
So whether you want a Reiki session, whether you want a healing horse session, she works out of a very, very beautiful ranch in Topanga. It is stunning. So the vista alone is worth the trip, and working with Frida is a super, super amazing experience. I'm just saying, she's an incredible coach and healer. Thank you, Frida. I really appreciate your time today. And I can't wait to see you in October in person.
Thank you for your time and inviting me to this really cool podcast. I'm so happy.
Awesome. All right. We'll see you soon.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of A Life Worth Being. I hope you found it fun and inspiring. And to avoid a bad case of FOMO, please be sure to click that subscribe button. If you love what you heard today, please share it with a friend and then hop on over to your favorite podcast platform and return the love with a wonderful review and 5-star rating. It would truly mean the world to me. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and on my website. Links below in the show notes. I appreciate you, and I will see you next week for more fresh insights on awakening a life worth being.